I still remember the moment she grabbed my arm. Not gently, not politely. The woman sitting beside me on the flight tightened her fingers around my sleeve as if I were the only thing keeping her from falling apart. "Please," she whispered, her voice trembling. "When we land, can you pretend you know me?" At first, I thought I had misheard her. We had spent most of the 4-hour flight exchanging the occasional smile and nothing more. She had introduced herself as Emily sometime after takeoff. I had told her my name was Jake. We talked briefly about delayed flights, terrible airport coffee, and how neither of us liked turbulence. That was it. We were strangers. Yet now, 30 minutes before landing in Chicago, she looked terrified. I glanced around the cabin. "Why?" I asked quietly. Emily swallowed hard and looked toward the window. "My ex-boyfriend is waiting for me at arrivals." I frowned. "Does he know you're coming?" "Yes." "Then why don't you just avoid him?" Her eyes filled with tears. "Because he won't let me." A chill ran through me. For a few seconds, I wasn't sure what to say. She looked exhausted, like someone who hadn't slept properly in weeks. "I broke up with him 6 months ago," she continued. "He keeps finding ways to contact me. New numbers, new emails, new social media accounts." I listened carefully. "He promised he just wanted closure," she said. "Then he somehow found out I was flying home today. He texted me this morning saying he'd be waiting. Did you tell airport security?" She nodded. "They said they can help if he causes a disturbance. But he knows how to act normal around other people." The fear in her voice wasn't dramatic. It was worse than that. It sounded real. Then she looked at me. "Would you just walk with me? Pretend we're friends? Maybe he'll leave if he thinks I'm not alone." I hesitated. Every instinct told me to be careful. But another part of me saw genuine fear in her eyes. Nobody should feel unsafe simply arriving home, so I nodded. "Okay." Her shoulders dropped instantly. The relief on her face was heartbreaking. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," I said. "Let's just get you through arrivals." For the first time since she'd asked, she smiled. A small smile, but a real one. And somehow that made me feel responsible for seeing this through. The plane landed shortly after sunset. As passengers stood and reached for luggage, Emily's hands began shaking again. I noticed. "You okay?" She forced a nod. "Number." At least she was honest. When we stepped into the terminal, I slowed my pace so we could walk together. The airport buzzed with the familiar chaos of arriving travelers, families reunited, business travelers rushing toward exits, children dragging stuffed animals behind them. Normal life. But Emily scanned every face like she was searching for danger. We reached baggage claim. Nothing happened. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. I started thinking maybe he wasn't there. Maybe he'd changed his mind. Maybe we'd worried for nothing. Then Emily froze. I followed her gaze. A man stood near the exit doors. Mid-30s. Clean cut, holding flowers, smiling. If I hadn't known better, he would have looked harmless. But the second Emily saw him, all color drained from her face. "That's him." I felt my stomach tighten. The man spotted her. Immediately, his smile widened, and he started walking toward us, fast. "Emily." The way he said her name made my skin crawl, like he already owned the conversation. Like her fear didn't matter. Emily instinctively moved closer to me. I took a step forward. The man slowed. His eyes shifted to me. "Who's this?" "A friend," Emily answered quickly. His smile vanished. "What friend?" I kept my voice calm. "Problem?" His eyes narrowed. For a second, I expected anger. Instead, he laughed. A short, unpleasant laugh. "None of your business." Emily looked down. I noticed immediately. People who feel safe don't look down like that. They don't shrink. They don't disappear into themselves. "Actually," I said, "it becomes my business if you're making her uncomfortable." The man stared at me. The air between us felt heavy. Then something unexpected happened. An older woman nearby stepped closer. She'd clearly overheard. "Everything okay here?" she asked. The man glanced at her, then at me, then at Emily. And suddenly he wasn't dealing with one person anymore. He was dealing with witnesses. That changed everything. His confidence cracked, just slightly. "But enough. I'm just trying to talk to my girlfriend." "I'm not your girlfriend," Emily said. Her voice shook, but she said it. The older woman immediately moved beside her. Then I think you've got your answer. A couple nearby paused. Then another traveler. Within seconds, several strangers were watching. Nobody yelled. Nobody threatened him. They simply paid attention. And sometimes that's enough. The man's expression hardened. For a moment, I thought he might argue. Instead, he muttered something under his breath and turned away. Then he walked out of the airport. Just like that, gone. Emily stared after him, not moving, not speaking, as though she couldn't quite believe it. Neither could I. Then she began crying. Not dramatic sobs, just quiet tears of relief. The older woman hugged her, and what happened next is something I'll never forget. 3 complete strangers stood together in an airport baggage claim area. Nobody knew anyone. Nobody expected anything. Yet somehow we had become a team. Because one frightened person needed help. That's all. Nothing more. Nothing less. I assumed that would be the end of the story. It wasn't. The older woman introduced herself as Carol, a retired school principal. Emily thanked both of us repeatedly. Then she called her sister to come pick her up. While we waited, Carol refused to leave. Nobody waits alone tonight, she said firmly. Emily laughed through her tears. When her sister finally arrived, the reunion was emotional. The 2 women hugged for nearly a minute. Emily turned back toward us. I don't know how to thank you. You already did, Carol replied. How? You trusted us. Emily smiled. Then she surprised me. She handed me a folded piece of paper. My number. I blinked. She quickly added, not like that. I laughed. Good clarification. Her smile grew. I just mean, I'd like to know how life turns out for the people who helped me. I slipped the paper into my pocket. Fair enough. Then she left, and I honestly believed I'd never see her again. 3 months passed. Life moved on. Work became busy. The flight became another story among many. Until one Saturday morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Instead, I answered. Hello, Jake. I recognized the voice immediately. Emily. Hey. Hi. There was excitement in her voice. And something else. Happiness. Real happiness. I wanted to tell you something. Okay. He got arrested. I sat upright. What happened? He violated a protective order. I closed my eyes in relief. Good. The airport incident helped. What do you mean? She laughed softly. Multiple witnesses provided statements. I thought of Carol, the travelers, the baggage claim crowd, people who'd probably forgotten the entire event, yet their presence mattered more than they would ever know. I'm glad, I said. So am I. Then she paused. Actually, there's another reason I'm calling. Yeah? I'm speaking at a community event next month. About what? Support systems. I smiled. That sounds important. It is. Another pause. Then, I was hoping you'd come. The event took place at a community center outside Chicago. I almost didn't attend. Public speaking events weren't exactly my thing, but curiosity won. When I arrived, the room was packed. Teachers, students, parents, social workers, volunteers, regular people. Emily stood backstage. She looked completely different. Not physically, emotionally. The fear was gone. In its place stood confidence, strength, peace. When she stepped to the microphone, the room fell silent. Then she began telling her story, not just about her ex, not about fear, not about trauma. She talked about kindness, about the moment she asked a stranger for help on a plane, about the retired principal who stepped forward, about the travelers who chose not to look away, about ordinary people doing something extraordinary simply by caring. Then she said something that hit me harder than I expected. People think heroes are rare. The room listened. I don't, she smiled. I think heroes are usually tired travelers carrying backpacks and waiting for luggage. Soft laughter filled the room. Then her voice grew emotional. The night I landed in Chicago, nobody saved me with strength. She looked toward me. They saved me with presence. The room became silent again. Sometimes humanity isn't about grand gestures. A tear rolled down her cheek. Sometimes it's about staying. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. And somehow the silence felt powerful. Because everyone understood exactly what she meant. After the event ended, dozens of people approached Emily. Some thanked her, some shared their own stories, others simply hugged her. When the crowd finally thinned, she walked over to me. "Thanks for coming, wouldn't have missed it." She laughed. "You're still terrible at accepting compliments, probably." For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I asked something I'd wondered for months. "Why did you pick me?" Emily smiled thoughtfully. "Honestly, yeah, you looked kind." I laughed. "That's not a real answer." "It is. Number. It is." She folded her arms. "People underestimate how much they reveal about themselves." I shook my head. "You took a huge risk." "I know." "Weren't you scared I'd say no?" She smiled softly. "I was terrified." "Then why ask?" Her eyes became emotional again. "Because sometimes hope looks exactly like a stranger." For several seconds, I couldn't think of anything to say. Because she was right. Every meaningful act of kindness starts with uncertainty. You don't know whether someone will help. You don't know whether they care. You simply hope. And occasionally, hope answers back. A year later, Emily and I remained friends. Not because of that airport incident, not because of obligation, but because shared moments of humanity create unusual connections. Carol stayed in touch too. The three of us met for lunch every few months. We laughed about the bizarre way we met: a nervous woman, a random passenger, a retired principal, an airport baggage claim area. Not exactly the beginning of a lifelong friendship. Yet life rarely follows scripts. Sometimes the people who change your story appear without warning. A seat assignment, a delayed flight, a simple question. "Can you pretend you know me?" Looking back, I realized that wasn't really what Emily was asking. She wasn't asking for an act. She wasn't asking for a performance. She was asking for something far more human. She was asking not to be alone. And that night, a handful of strangers answered, not because they had to, not because there was a reward, but because compassion remains one of the most powerful forces in the world. In a time when people often feel disconnected, suspicious, and divided, that experience taught me something I will never forget. Most people are still good. Most people still care. And sometimes, when someone reaches out in fear, the smallest act of kindness can become the reason they finally feel safe enough to start living again.